Hi, I'm John Huber, the Trigger Guy. I'm going to show you how to put in your new Remington 700 trigger. Always, safety first. First thing I do to make sure the gun is safe, open the bolt, put it to safety, make sure there's no ammunition in the magazine, and make sure there's no round in the chamber. Make sure you separate the ammunition, get it out of the way so you don't have loaded guns in installation. At that point, you can remove the bolt using the existing bottom bolt release on the Remington 700. On some of the other clones, they don't have that feature, they have it built into the receiver. Alright, the next step is going to be removing the barrel action from the stock. You'll need some tools, straight or Phillips tip. On this particular gun, it uses an Allen wrench. I prefer to hold it in this position. You might want to remove your scope from the proceedings. Usually it's 2. On some of the other ones, there's 3 screws in the action to remove it. You remove the 2 screws that hold the floor plate in place and set it aside. Alright, at this point, and if you have a bedded stock, you're going to have to make sure you pull it off properly, and it's going to take a little bit of work to get it off. Tight stock. Alright, set your other stock aside. Alright, at this point I'm going to turn it upside down and put it in this point. Now, before you install, you're going to have to make sure there's appropriate clearances. It might be a little close at the front. Check at the rear for the safety. In that point, it would be this area right in here to check. As you can see, this stock has been bedded. Just make sure that your clearances fit within the pockets. Our next step is to remove the 2 pins that hold the trigger into the action. First step, safety first again. Make sure you have the bolt out and there's no ammunition anywhere near the gun. Safety first. Next, you're going to use less than an 1/8-inch pin. It needs to be less than an 1/8-inch pin to do this job correctly. Otherwise, it'll bind up and do more harm. You want to drift these pins from right to left. They are entered from the right. Note, at the rear pin, you have a bolt stop attachment. It's the upper and lower bolt stop on the Remington. This is how you can release the bolt from the receiver. Alright? In order to do that, you have to drift this pin out, and it may require hammering it. Now, if you do this right, you can release the trigger without losing the bolt stop. Okay? I like taking the rear pin out. At this point, you can take that pin out and remove the bolt stop lever and spring, remembering that the sear spring may come out with your particular trigger. Okay. Then I push out the front pin. Right to left. You go to put it back in, you got to remember to put it beyond flush of the bolt stop or it will bind. You won't be able to remove your bolt from the gun. So at this point, you remove the old trigger and the trigger is out. Alright. It just so happens we're going to show you how to put the very same trigger back together and into the gun. Your trigger will be provided with slave pins at the front and the rear. If you happen to liberate those springs and release the sear, make sure you tend that spring into the pocket to the front. the next step is to install your new trigger. With that, you need your 1/8" punch, and you'll note that the slave pins are in the new trigger. You should be able to put it in. I do the front pin first. It's usually the short pin of the two. The front short pin, when you put it in, needs to go past the bolt stop slot. Now, while you're doing this, you're pushing the other slave pin out. All right. As you note, I pushed the slave pin out, and I made sure that the pin clears the bolt stop slot. Now, at this point, the trigger is fixed in the front pinhole. You're ready to put in the rear pin. Now, to make sure that that bolt stop clears, well, make sure that clears. When this goes in, it pivots on the rear pin. So, what I wind up having to do is make sure that the trigger is up out of the way of the lever. Here's the lower lever hook. I'll start here. Take the spring and put it in there. Sometimes they call them JC pins because they go flying. Try not to lose your mechanism here. Now, at this point, the pin is in the position where it's holding the bolt stop lever, the upper arm, and the spring in place, and the pin is just ready to put through into the trigger. So as you bring this down, the hook of the lower lever is going to engage your upper arm, and you're going to be able to run that trigger all the way, or that pin all the way through, pushing the bolt stop, or pushing the pin out the back. Mind you, make sure you're in the safe position. When that slave pin comes through, you don't want to push it into the side of the safety handle. I bring the pin flush with the slot of the bolt stop stud. Or thereabouts. The other end will come very close to the other side of the opening. You should also note that the hook of the lower bolt stop lever should engage the notch in the upper bolt stop lever. Okay, at that point, you're ready to put it back together. You can do a function check at this point. With a function check, you're going to close and lock the action, and you're going to put it on safe. It should not fire. You will have a little bit of motion before the safety. That is normal. Push to fire should fire the gun. That's a function check. When you've done that, you can proceed to put it back into the stock, perform another function check on safe and fire to make sure there were no interferences in the stock. At which point, you've done the function check, the safety works, the trigger works, snap in, go to the range, have fun. Thank you.